What's up out there, everybody? Welcome back to our epic journey through the best movies of the 1990s, a decade where Hollywood couldn't stop giving us instant classics. In this episode, we're entering the top 30. We're covering films 30 through 21. Things are getting serious. These are the movies that filled theaters, dominated VHS shelves, and from career-defining performances to jaw-dropping set pieces, these 10 movies brought the drama, the danger, the comedy, and the chaos. So grab a snack, fire up your nostalgia drive, and let's see which cinematic icons made the cut as we continue this countdown in the greatest movie decade ever. In 1999's The Green Mile, Tom Hanks plays a prison guard who meets a gentle giant on death row played by Michael Duncan Clark, who may just have the divine gift of power to heal more than wounds. Now, The Green Mile isn't just a movie, it's a full-on emotional marathon. Based on Stephen King's novel, it follows Tom Hanks as a death row prison guard in the 1930s who meets John Coffey, played by Michael Clark Duncan, a towering inmate with miraculous powers and the soul of a gentle giant, and what unfolds is part supernatural mystery, part moral reckoning, and really all heartbreak. Frank Darabont brings a rich, slow burn storytelling here by really just allowing the human elements to breathe between the moments of fantasy. Duncan's performance is otherworldly, it's gentle, soulful, and devastating, earning him a much-deserved Oscar nomination. Hanks here does his usual dependable work, anchoring the story with a quiet decency, and yet for a film with such grace, The Green Mile still hits pretty hard. It doesn't shy away from the brutality of the justice system, the pain of injustice, or the way power can be corrupted even in the most sacred institutions. And you add in a sadistic guard, a miraculous mouse, and spots of dialogue that will never leave your brain, and you've got one of the most emotionally loaded 3-hour movies ever made. This was just pure late 90s prestige cinema with a hint of magic. You weren't emotionally prepared the first time you watched it, but that's okay because nobody was. New Jack City from 1991, Wesley Snipes rules the streets as drug kingpin Nino Brown, while Ice-T and Judd Nelson try to bring down his crack empire in this explosive blend of crime, style, and social commentary. New Jack City would pretty much kick the doors open for early 90s urban crime dramas, and it dared to be both flashy and socially conscious. Wesley Snipes is 100% magnetic as Nino Brown, a cold-blooded drug lord running New York like his own little kingdom with equal parts Scarface and Wall Street wise guy, and opposite him, Ice-T and Judd Nelson are great, playing cops trying to take him down before taking each other out first. This was another of those late-night cable TV finds for me as a teen, and I absolutely loved it. Director Mario Van Peebles, who also co-stars in this one, is able to just give the film a fast, stylish energy with plenty of 90s edge. Think bold color palettes, big coats, bigger guns, and a New Jack Swing soundtrack that still bumps to this day. But I mean, beneath all of the swagger is still a bleak commentary on the crack epidemic and just the communities that it devastated. It was the rare action crime flick that actually had something to say and the guts to say it. Wesley Snipes, as I said, absolutely owns the role of Nino Brown, delivering lines like "sit your $5 ass down before I make change" with a theatrical menace that still echoes in pop culture to this day. Ice-T was great as well. He may have came in as a rapper turned actor, but this was the movie that proved he could hold his own on screen, and more than 30 years later, New Jack City still remains iconic. It was a wake-up call, a style guide, and just a showcase for Black talent both behind and in front of the camera. 1990's Ghost featured Patrick Swayze returning from beyond the grave to protect Demi Moore with the help of Whoopi Goldberg's scene-stealing psychic in a supernatural romance that somehow made pottery sexy. There's really no logical reason Ghost should have worked as well as it did. It was a romantic drama, a supernatural thriller, and a pottery-based love story all in one, but albeit against all the odds and maybe thanks to some actual spirits, it would become a pop culture phenomenon. Patrick Swayze plays Sam, a man murdered in the prime of his life who sticks around as a ghost to protect his grieving girlfriend, played by Demi Moore, his only connection to the world of the living, a psychic named Oda Mae Brown, played by Whoopi Goldberg, and really just the most chaotic and just brilliant Oscar-winning performance of the decade. Yes, the pottery scene gets all the press, but Ghost had more than that to offer. It was a tearjerker. It had whispers of a revenge movie to it. It was a metaphysical story about closure, and it certainly captured the zeitgeist. I remember going to movies with my friends, and it seemed like everybody's parents, when this one was released, were going in to see this movie while we were all going to watch probably an action or a comedy of some sorts. I mean, Swayze's great here. He gives one of his most earnest performances, and more, eyebrows and all, is just heartbreakingly good. But I mean, Whoopi, she is the secret sauce. She crashes in like comedic relief and leaves the room with the movie under her arm. Ghost shouldn't have been this emotionally effective or this creepy, and yet it just balances horror and heart like a spiritual rom-com thriller hybrid. I mean, go figure. Ghost became a box office juggernaut, and it will live on in memes and parodies and ceramic reenactments for all time. Boys in the Hood from 1991, Cuba Gooding Jr., Ice Cube, and Morris Chestnut navigate life, loss, and loyalty in South Central Los Angeles in John Singleton's powerful directorial debut that hit like a cultural earthquake. Now, when Boys in the Hood dropped in 1991, it was a lightning rod, it was a gut punch to American cinema, and John Singleton, at just 23 years old, delivered a deeply personal and just absolutely unflinching look at life in South Central Los Angeles, and in doing so, he would become the youngest and first black director nominated for an Oscar. The story follows Trey, played by Cuba Gooding Jr. He's a bright kid sent to live with his tough love father, Furious Styles, played by Lawrence Fishburne, and Trey, with his friends Doughboy and Ricky, will navigate a world where opportunity and violence exist really on opposite ends of the same street. It's a coming-of-age story drenched in systemic neglect, heartbreak, and just the ache of wasted potential. Singleton's direction here is confident and naturalistic, just letting the quiet scenes hit just as hard as the gunshots. Ice Cube is fantastic, and his first major acting role proved he was much more than just a rapper, bringing complexity to a character who could have really easily just been one note in lesser hands. And Gooding Jr. is also impressive here in a breakout role. This film's impact was immediate. It launched careers, it sparked conversation, it gave mainstream audiences a view into a community that until then was really just generally reduced to the headlines. The emotional moments of this movie just cut deep, especially that final fade to black, and the cultural echoes of this movie are everywhere, with Singleton creating just an indelible piece of cinematic poetry that did so much more than simply tell a story. In 1999's Office Space, Ron Livingston, after a hypnotherapy session, leads a rebellion against corporate hell in one fraction of a penny at a time in Mike Judge's cult comedy that made hating your job weirdly therapeutic. Now, Office Space is the movie that proved the real villain of the 90s wasn't a serial killer or a corrupt cop. It was middle frickin' management. Mike Judge's cult classic follows Peter. He's a cubicle drone who gets hypnotized into really not caring anymore. It's the ultimate anti-capitalist comedy dressed up in TPS reports and draped in beige walls. The supporting cast is great. Jennifer Aniston, she's fun. She brings a laid-back charm as a disillusioned waitress. Gary Cole's passive-aggressive boss is the stuff of meme legend, and Stephen Root's Milton would redefine staple-related rage for an entire generation. The characters in this movie are exaggerated just enough to feel absurd, but still painfully relatable. And if you've ever had to smile through a forced team meeting, then this movie probably felt like therapy. I remember working retail back in the day. They would give these just obnoxious rah-rah meetings about having to open up more credit accounts. I'd always zone out while they were talking, often thinking of this movie as they would just babble away, trying to make a credit card with like 26% interest sound like a good thing. And really, what's wild is that Office Space flopped when it first hit theaters. It wasn't really until DVD and late night cable airings that it became a touchstone for every overworked and underappreciated white collar worker. Suddenly, the world realized it wasn't just a comedy, it was a prophecy. Office Space isn't flashy or high concept, it's just the perfect takedown of workplace drudgery. It's made with dry wit and a fax machine beatdown that just became iconic. Blumberg would definitely not approve of how much we all love this movie, and really, that makes it even better. "1992's Deep Cover delivers Lawrence Fishburne going undercover into the drug world with Jeff Goldblum as his unknowingly wildcard crime partner in a slick, noir-infused thriller that dares to ask, what if the line between cop and criminal disappeared? To me, Deep Cover is the kind of slick, moody thriller that just doesn't get enough credit for being a straight-up genre gem. Lawrence Fishburne stars as Russell Stevens, a cop pulled into a DEA operation to infiltrate the LA drug underworld, only to find himself becoming the very thing that he is supposed to destroy. And then there's Jeff Goldblum, just playing a completely unhinged, fast-talking lawyer turned crime kingpin who is honestly terrifying in the most Goldblum way possible. Directed by Bill Duke, the film just wraps its neo-noir bones around very weighty themes: the war on drugs, systemic racism, the morality of undercover police work, but it never forgets along the way to be an entertaining thriller. Fishburne just narrates the whole thing with a world-weary poetry vibe, and the plot moves like a jazz solo, unexpected but still very smooth. The soundtrack is fantastic, led by Dr. Dre and Snoop's title track that was really a cultural movement on its own, just ushering in the G-Funk era and giving us one of the most iconic rap debuts ever. I think Deep Cover was ahead of its time, no question. It combined social critique with street-level pulp in a way that paved the road for later classics like Training Day. It's moody, it's stylish, and it's one of the coolest movies of the 90s that too many people slept on. In 1990's Home Alone, Macaulay Culkin stars as an abandoned kid defending his suburban fortress from bumbling burglars. Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern in a holiday instant classic that turned booby traps into a cinematic art form. Now, before Kevin McAllister booby-trapped his suburban fortress like a grade school Rambo, nobody knew just how far a kid would go to protect his house. Home Alone would turn Christmas into a contact sport and Macaulay Culkin into a global megastar. Directed by Chris Columbus and written by John Hughes, this holiday juggernaut follows little Kevin, accidentally left behind by his chaotic family, forcing him to defend his home from two bumbling burglars, the Wet Bandits, played to absolute slapstick perfection by Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern. This movie really is the total package. It's got heart, it has hijinks, it's got a tarantula to the face. We watch this movie at least a couple of times every holiday season. It just has that perfect sappy Christmas atmosphere to it that lands so cozily despite its blatant artificiality. But Home Alone isn't just about the traps and the physical comedy, though let's be honest, it is iconic. I mean, outside of that, though, it's still a surprisingly sweet story about independence and forgiveness and that deep family craving at Christmas time that you sometimes get, even the ones that we don't like all too much. This movie was a massive hit. It made nearly a $500 million worldwide. It would spawn a franchise and become a holiday staple that still draws huge numbers every December. 1994's True Lies would give us Arnold Schwarzenegger playing a secret agent balancing family life and spy chaos, while Jamie Lee Curtis goes from housewife to action heroine in James Cameron's high-octane domestic disaster piece riffing on the 007 universe. In True Lies, Arnold Schwarzenegger plays a globe-trotting secret agent whose wife thinks he's just a boring computer salesman, and somehow that's the least ridiculous thing about this amazing summer movie epic. James Cameron's spy action comedy hybrid is what happens when you throw Mission Impossible, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and 007 into a blender and then add a horse chase through a hotel. Arnold's fantastic here. He's at peak charisma in this movie. He's cool, he's lethal, he's got that effective dad next door twist to him, and Jamie Lee Curtis is great as well. She goes from frustrated housewife to lingerie-clad undercover badass in a transformation so iconic it would break PG-13 ratings as she became many a teens as Mrs. Robinson. And then you get Tom Arnold, of all people, stealing scenes as the wisecracking sidekick. This movie was everywhere and had everything. I'll always have fond memories of just sitting at the drive-in with all my friends all summer long watching this movie when it was released. The action is still pretty awesome today. Lots of practical work, not that much digital. There's a nuclear missile on a bridge, a Harrier jet in downtown Miami, a tango. I mean, it's just pure Cameron excess. It's got epic scale, razor sharp pacing, and explosions that, I mean, practically high-five you when they go off, yet somehow it still finds some room for some genuine heart, mostly in the marriage subplot, which was way better than it had any right to be. I mean, True Lies is simply over the top in all the best ways, a rare blockbuster that blends action and comedy without shortchanging either. In The Sixth Sense, Haley Joel Osment saw dead people, Bruce Willis tried to help, and M. Night Shyamalan would redefine the twist ending in a ghost story that left audiences frozen in their seats with their minds totally blown. I See Dead People. With those 4 words, M. Night Shyamalan would become a household name, and The Sixth Sense would become the movie that launched 1,000 rewatches. Released in 1999, this slow burn supernatural drama starred Bruce Willis as a haunted child psychologist trying to help a young boy, and Oscar-nominated Haley Joel Osment, who claims that he can see ghosts. At first, it's a creepy kid movie, then it becomes a deep emotional tale about grief and guilt and redemption, and then that twist, the twist of all twists, you know, the one, even if you haven't seen it, you know it. It's the twist that hit audiences like a ghostly sucker punch and redefined what movie endings could be in the mainstream. The cast is fantastic here. Osment is phenomenal, delivering a performance way beyond his years. Willis dials it way down to deliver one of his most grounded and effective roles, and Toni Collette as the mother trying to hold it all together is really heartbreaking and essential as well. So this movie as well was the total package. The Sixth Sense wasn't just a box office smash, it was a cultural phenomenon. It turned whispers in theaters into gasps, and suddenly everybody was on twist ending alert for years to come. And even today, I still think it is the gold standard for shocking an audience. In 1995's Casino, Robert De Niro runs Vegas, Joe Pesci brings the muscle, and Sharon Stone brings the fire, in Martin Scorsese's a glitzy, violent tale of money, power, betrayal, and sunglasses inside. Now, Martin Scorsese's Casino is essentially Goodfellas in the desert if Goodfellas snorted way more cocaine, wore a lot more sequins, and added about 30 minutes or so. Released in 1995, this epic chronicles the rise and fall of Ace Rothstein, played by Robert De Niro, a mob-connected casino operator whose entire empire gets tangled up in love and greed, and with the volatile loyalty of one Nicky Santoro, played by a terrifying Joe Pesci who just really brings full rabid pit bull energy here. Sharon Stone, in my opinion, delivers her career best performance as Ginger, Ace's hustler turned wife who just spirals out in a whirlwind of manipulation and greed and just addiction and chaos. And there's no denying that she earned every bit of her Oscar nomination. This movie, I think, is just very well rounded. It's a tale of excess told with just relentless momentum. Voiceovers, montages, pop music, needle drops, and brutal violence, all wrapped in a glittery Vegas haze. I think Scorsese makes the 3-hour runtime fly by as if you've just sat down at a blackjack table and blinked. And while often overshadowed by Goodfellas, I think Casino just holds its own as a stunningly just cynical look at how money and power can potentially rot everything they touch in the wrong hands. It's part history lesson, part cautionary tale, full-on Vegas fever dream, and by the time that cornfield scene hits, you're never going to look at a baseball bat the same way again. And that's it for today, guys. That's a wrap on this entry, films 30 through 21. 10 more reasons why the 90s still reigned supreme, whether it was a mind-bending thriller, a quotable comedy, or a movie that just turned your living room into a dramatic monologue zone. These films weren't just popular, they were personal on many levels. And now we're heading into the big leagues. The top 20 is coming next, and trust me, it's wall-to-wall legends from here on out, so hit that rewind button if you missed an episode, and stay tuned as we dive deeper into this decade that gave us movie magic, one VHS case at a time. I hope to see you guys all back in the next episode, and until then, movies never say die.
This is Jack Burton in the Pork Chop Express, and I'm talking to whoever's listening out there.
Survive a war, you gotta become war.
I suppose we have to register you as a lethal weapon.
You trying to say Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball?